Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Divided Films, the podcast where we talk about movies that audiences and critics do not agree on. My name is JJ, and with me, as always, is my co-host Keith.
Hello.
Keith's signature greeting. And then with us today is a very, very special person. I'm so excited to have him on the podcast finally. My amazing fiance, Eric Tauro.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Eric.
Welcome to the podcast, Eric. How's it feel to finally be on the podcast?
I mean, it's long overdue, JJ, but I'm glad to finally partake in such a great podcast because I've been listening to a lot of it and I've been around. So it's been great to finally be in it and talk about a movie I love, and it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, Eric actually has sat in on some of our recordings in the past, and we're just waiting for the perfect movie to talk about. And when we discovered that today's movie was divided, we knew for sure this had to be it. So today's divided film is the 2004 high school teen comedy Mean Girls, directed by Mark Waters and starring Tina Fey and Lindsay Lohan. This movie falls into the category of having a fresh score with critics and a mixed score with audiences. So that's 84% score with critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 66% with audiences, so like an 18% divide there. And the critic consensus, elevated by a brilliant screenplay and outstanding ensemble cast, Mean Girls finds fresh, female-fronted humor in the high school experience. So, what did you guys think when you found out that this, what I thought was like a staple Hallmark, movie, like a household movie, was divided?
When you told me, I was a bit shocked. Especially when you consider the legacy that this movie has.
Yeah, exactly. What did you think, Eric?
Me too. I was actually extremely shocked because everyone I knew loved this movie. I love this movie, and I'm surprised that it's the audience who did not like it, because I thought maybe the critics did not like it as much, because it could be one of those cheesy high school movies, but then again, I guess the audience, I'm shocked by that.
Yeah, you know what? I was very confused by the low audience score, and so looking into this, we really wanted to dive in this time to figure out what's going on with this audience score. And first of all, I think this movie is getting flack for what Freaky Friday, which we also talked about, is getting flack for, which is just Lindsay Lohan. There are people who are just anti-Lindsay Lohan, even before she went crazy. I think she's great in this, and for some reason, she just has these detractors, and I'm not sure why. What do you guys think of Lindsay Lohan in this movie?
Well, I think Lindsay Lohan is a perfect character to have in this movie, because the thing is, she played the roles that, she's coming from Africa, and that she has these roles where she's not the popular, beautiful, cool girl all the time. When she was in Freaking Friday, she was that rocker chick. She wasn't essentially like the cool girl. And then also in Parent Trap, she wasn't that glamour young girl. She's that kind of girl that you bring into something that, okay, she's normal. She can be molded to something cool, but
she's more relatable in a lot of her movies, and she certainly starts out that way in this movie. I mean, I don't know how many people can relate to being homeschooled in Africa, but she comes across as more of that down to earth girl in the beginning, and I think she's endearing, playing that kind of part. What do you think, Keith?
This is the role that she will be remembered for. This is her at the top of her career. And this is kind of like if Freaky Friday and Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen were starting to open doors for her, this one was like, oh wow, this movie made her a star. This movie made a lot of people stars, but this movie made her a star. And she has great timing. She's relatable. She went on to host SNL, and I think that was even a very she did a very good job at it. She was Hermione in that one sketch. She had great. That's a very well remembered sketch.
Was that the same episode where everyone broke character in the Disney sketch with
yes.
Debbie Downer.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
a legendary sketch. Everyone breaking character there. But yeah, no, I think this was like when Lindsay Lohan was like a huge name in movies, and I think this was the peak, because I think after this is maybe when things started to go a little downhill for her. But if this is maybe the pinnacle of her career, I think it's pretty good. I think this, Eric and I have talked about this before. We think that Mean Girls is probably the most quintessential high school movie of the 2000s. I think maybe number 2 could be Superbad, and that came like a few years later. But when you talk about the biggest high school movies of each decade, Clueless of the 90s, I think Mean Girls will probably be the top high school movie of the 2000s. Is there any other high school movie that maybe could be a contender for that?
I totally forgot about Superbad, but because Mean Girls for me was the top, and they're they're both high school movies, but Mean Girls is a teen, they're so different stylized, but
here's a way you can differentiate them. This Mean Girls is a female-led movie, and then Superbad is more of a male-led teen movie. So
both are great, though.
Yeah,
accessible to everybody.
Both were very popular, and I think maybe Mean Girls has maybe stood the test of time a little better in terms of people continuing to watch it and quote it and stuff like that, because it is extremely quotable.
Very quotable. Like, watching the movie, you can't help but quote everything. It's great.
I think you could maybe have like really fun screenings where people shout out, recite the lines as they're being said. There's so many great lines, and that's a great tribute to Tina Fey's writing. She's also the writer behind this, and it's it's not like the 30 Rock humor per se, but it's just like really good comedic writing, just solid jokes, solid character-based humor, and sometimes it gets a little absurd, but not too much where it breaks character from the nature of the film.
Also, as you mentioned, this is a show of the movie of the 2000s. Like, for example, Breakfast Club of the 80s, 90s was Clueless. Anything after this, I can't even think of a high school movie that's as great as Mean Girls. That kind of has that film.
You don't really have that anymore. I kind of miss, except for like Edge of 17, which was such like a breath of fresh air, and even that's like, you guys were looking at me like you've never heard of this movie. It's with that Haley Steinfeld, the True Grit girl. Like, that was such a breath of fresh air, but people don't really know about it. But this genre kind of went out after like the 2000 decade.
This
like
might
the
be
2000s.
This might be the last big, great high school movie that everyone saw. I mean, because nowadays you get, I think, a lot of independent high school movies. Like Lady Bird, I really liked, and then also Booksmart, which came out last year, I thought was pretty good. But like, again, these are all movies that are maybe more small scale in terms of its audience size. I think they're well received. I think quality wise they're pretty good, but they're definitely not the cultural phenomenon that Mean Girls was. So there's definitely a lot of power here in the the cultural resonance of Mean Girls.
While this movie, and this hit me when I was doing a rewatch for this movie may not be perfect, but it is a perfect storm. Like, everything fell into place at the right time for it to be the cultural zeitgeist. And like Mark Waters worked with Lindsay Lohan on Freaky Friday, so there's that connection. Tina Fey's writing with Lorne Michaels' production. Like, Lorne Michaels had a lot of stake in this movie. Like, he's the one who said, like, Amanda Seyfried, you're very good at playing the dumb girl. She will be the dumb girl. Lindsay Lohan originally tried out for Regina George, and they're like, no, you're like, he was a big. His name is the first thing you see in this movie.
It's a Lorne Michaels production, right?
And there's a lot of heavy SNL-ness aside from like there's 4 cast members, but the humor is Tina Fey meets like SNL, and it's just like a perfect storm of. It must be how like people feel about Ghostbusters. This movie really kind of should not have worked, but with the comic stylings of everyone involved, not even Tina Fey and Lindsay Lohan, but everyone's hilarious in this.
Yeah, I think the casting is really on point. I mean, like you mentioned, there's a lot of Saturday Night Live cast members, and maybe you could say this is like a semi SNL movie.
Yeah,
it's not it's not based on a sketch, but it's got so much of that SNL power in it.
It might as well be. But...
Yeah, right. And they're pretty much secondary or minor characters, but they all work. I mean, Amy Poehler is hilarious in this as the mom. It's
cool mom.
Yeah, I'm a cool mom.
Tim Meadows for me. Tim Meadows, I think, is one of the most underrated, funniest people like ever. Like, if you need a funny dad in a show or in a movie, he would be my go-to, especially in Pop Star.
Yeah, I think he kind of brings this. I mean, that could easily be like a throwaway role, right? Like just like the principal who's trying to keep order. But I think he kind of brings this like I hate my life sort of mentality to the role. That is
I did not leave the South Side for this. Like that line makes me laugh. I know that's not quotable, but that line just makes me laugh.
And I think that also is what you really need in comedies to kind of flesh out all the characters to give them like a comedic identity that everyone can recognize, and they all have their bits. And even you have the SNL cast members, but even like the students, all the students have their bits, and this movie really benefits from a really solid colorful cast. Like one of my favorite students in this movie is the girl who goes, one time Regina George punched me in the face. It was awesome. I love that girl. The look on her face throughout the movie is this completely like sincere and like desperate look on her face. And like the line that always kills me is during the assembly after the big fight when she tells Tim Meadows about her wide set vagina. I absolutely lose it. She's so sincere when she's telling him about this. And the look on Tim Meadows' face. It's
face,
classic.
Like, I can't handle this.
So who has a lady problem that they like to talk about? Yes.
Somebody wrote in that book that I'm lying about being a virgin because I use super jumbo tampons, but I can't help it if I've got a heavy flow and a wide set vagina.
Yeah, I can't do this.
But yeah, no, that all goes to the actors that they picked. But I read that Tina Fey, like I just read it the other day, but Tina Fey did really write like facts and details for all the characters. Like you could go up to Tina Fey on set going like, no matter who you were in the cast, and she would have an answer for your character. I think all these characters feel lived in.
That's great. I mean, she created basically her own world. That's like world building almost to create this high school movie. Because, it does feel that way. It does feel like every character, even like the background characters, have like, that identity. And you see it, kind of defined in that one sequence when they, cover all the cliques in the school, and I think they did their best to try to really capture like the kind of cliques you would see at high school at the time. I mean, sad enough to say, I was probably with the band geeks at the time when I was in high school. I'll admit it. But I definitely recognize a lot of those cliques from when I was in high school.
That's the thing about high school movies. You have this eclectic mix, this melting pot of different people, and all these different identities is just great to have in one school where you have these different cliques that kind of have these identities that anyone can relate to, essentially.
And I think that speaks to the power of the movie. I would think that's what audience would like about the movie, is that so many of them can relate to it in one sense or another. But going into some of these audience reviews, just to try to get into what audiences weren't that crazy about, it seems like a lot of people who wrote reviews on Rotten Tomatoes are very meh about this movie. Like they're just like, some people are just like, they don't care for it one way or the other, which is unfortunate.
Shocked.
Yeah, like people are just like, it's, generic. People called it like, typical, cliched. But I don't think it's your cliched high school movie that you would maybe have seen in like the late 90s. I think this movie is, is I don't know. I think this movie is doing something different than you would normally see in your typical coming of age high school movie.
I think going through the audience scores for me, granted, you kind of have to really just, a lot of that is like 4 out of 5, like 4 out of 5 stars, 5 out of 5. This is my favorite movie. And you see a lot of that. And then you go, like, someone will be honest. And I'm always shocked that people are like, I'm going to give an honest review I'm going to give an honest meh opinion about this movie on this random day. I'm always shocked that people are just willing to do that. But
yeah, just like take time out of your day to write
a meh review. Like I'm just kind of shocked that like these aren't bots or anything.
Yeah, what compels a person to take time out of their day to write a review about a 16-year-old movie that they don't feel that strongly about? That's kind of peculiar.
But it's equivalent to like meeting someone at a party or wherever and you're saying like, oh, this is my favorite show, I love it, it's my favorite comedy, and the person's like, meh, it's not for me, and you're like, what? Everyone, like, there are more than enough people. I've had those experiences. I'm kind of, what makes you laugh is what makes you laugh.
Laughing,
and I think that's just like, this doesn't, a lot of people, or at least a good amount of people, were like, this isn't for me.
Yeah, I guess, laughter is an involuntary response. So if you don't laugh, you don't laugh. And that's too bad. I feel like this is very broad humor that is just like, the kind of humor that is, I don't want to say crowd pleasing because that kind of like sounds like it's like easy to write. I would say that, Tina Fey is very good at writing, a unique style of humor that a lot of people can enjoy. So I guess
I'm just shocked that there's more. This movie is funny, and we said it before. This movie, to me, if you were to make a list of, not only like, I'm curious where it falls on teen comedies of all time, but at least of the 2000s, this is number one. I'm not saying it's a game changer. It's just a very well written, tight, jokes land, well acted movie.
Yeah, it's got to be on top.
Absolutely.
I mean, the rest,
and people just go meh. Like,
people are a lot of people. A lot of people are just like whatever about it. Maybe those are people who just aren't fans of the high school genre in general.
I mean, I can't mention any scene where I'm bored. It's just in the movie that you can't really get bored in. I feel like
it's a very short. Like I forgot that it's only like an hour and a half, and it flies by, and it doesn't wait on a joke too long. It really is right on to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has a good energy to it. The jokes come like not super fast, but at a pretty good pace. You're right, they don't like sit on too many jokes for too long, and it's very character driven.
Yes.
And it's a kind of movie you can kind of jump into any scene with. Like, there's definitely a story, but it's a kind of movie where, at least when you've seen it a lot, you're totally fine watching for, if you catch it on TV, you'll watch it maybe for like an hour or so, and then, maybe get your fill, or, sometimes like we did, you'll just have a whole sit down with it. Cause so many of the scenes are so strong on their own. Like there's the phone scene is a classic scene of just, or there's two of them. Like, there's the one where she gets ambushed, in the beginning, which I think is pretty funny. And Regina George has that line that's like, aren't you mad at Gretchen for telling your secret? And Gretchen's like secretly on the line listening.
This is a perfect time of the three-way calls, which I actually did a lot of during those years.
Really?
I love three-way calls. We do a lot of prank calling, a lot of talking to multiple people at once, and not the other person not knowing they're there.
Oh, you did that? You would have
I definitely did that a lot.
You would have people on the line, and they wouldn't.
You were a jerky boy. You were a jerky boy. Like
Mean Boys. That's like a spin-off. Okay, that's pretty funny.
And the thing with this movie is that this movie came out right before I started high school. Like this, I looked at this movie thinking, "Oh my gosh, high school gonna be like this?" Because I love it. It's just so much going on. I mean, not the wild parts. That's crazy, but the whole thing about this movie is just you have all these different cliques, and it made me real excited because going to high school, you just want to be in this world of meeting different people and finding your place.
Yeah, no, that's true. Everyone, you see the lunch tables and you think like, okay, like who am I gonna sit with? It's the same thing. Like I was just a year out of high school before, and when this movie comes out, so and maybe I was a little scared to go into high school. I think it's funny too. I remember a lot of girls in my school saying that like Regina George was their hero or something, which is kind of missing the point of the movie. You know, it's almost as if people watch this movie and get it, and other people watch it and enjoy it for like the wrong reasons. Like, oh, they relate to the plastics and root for them, and it's like, oh no, that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, I love Regina, and actually a lot of my friends loved Regina and the plastics. Like, we actually found them so hilarious. The Burn book is something, actually, a lot of people who I knew from grade school going to high school, we had a lot of rumors and gossip. And I imagine us maybe having this book where we just write about people. It's like essentially a yearbook where you can just write your thoughts about, your comments about people.
The Burn book is basically just Facebook now.
Yeah.
Like Facebook or Twitter.
People write mean comments.
And that's another, like, this movie just came out at the right time of 2004. No social media. It's not part of the plot. It probably would have been a lot meaner. But yeah,
That's
no. My high school experience was very different. It wasn't any.
Yeah,
no
you're right. This
Burn
does
books.
come out. This comes out like right before the internet becomes what we know it today. Right before the social media
Yes.
boom. Right before YouTube becomes a thing. Right, like just a few years before the first smartphone. So it's kind of like the last part of that era. You know, where people are still using flip phones. And yeah, you are using like an actual physical book to talk about people instead of like a
Amy
social media
Poehler
site.
is using basically. I mean, we're gonna have to explain that like video cameras. Like she's
Camcorders?
using a giant camcorders. She's using a giant one.
Yeah,
And that's like dad vacation camera instead
so
of just like
old school.
she would be using a cell phone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone has their cell phones out now. But you know, I want to talk about the rest of the main cast because I think this movie is so well casted. Like, you know, Regina George is a great character. I don't
Yes.
think she's a role model. I don't think she should be looked up to. But I think, you know, Rachel McAdams, this would probably be considered her breakout role. We also talked about The Notebook on another episode, but
2004 is her breakout year.
Yes, that's true. You know, I was very relieved that her career wasn't, totally killed by the hot chick. You know, that was like one of her first movies, but thankfully she got
That's
into
one
this.
of your favorite movies, JJ.
That's
JJ
one
and
of my
I used to
favorite
live
trash movies.
together, and I have walked in on him watching this movie.
Yeah,
I have
and
come
I
home
screamed
from
in
work and he's
embarrassment.
watching this
I
movie.
love The Hot Chick. It's a great movie.
It's shamelessly.
It's actually
stupid.
not that bad. It's not that. I mean, it's a pretty serviceable, fun movie.
It's definitely shamelessly stupid. But again, thankfully, Rachel McAdams was able to continue her career after that. She, wasn't. It's not like she got into this and was immediately thrown out of Hollywood. So she gets into this movie, and she's just so perfect as Regina George, and she totally gets this character is so well written because I do think, Mean Girls are really smart, and Regina George is really smart at coming up with these schemes to control people and get her way. Like a classic scene earlier on when she calls that one girl's mom pretending to be from Planned Parenthood. I mean, that is so diabolically evil. And then, of course, later on when she puts herself in the burn book to frame the other girls. I mean, that's classic. I like movies with smart characters who, sometimes are even a step ahead of the audience.
And she delivers her lines so well.
She dies.
Oh, I love my favorite from her is when it's after, Aaron Samuels breaks up with her and her friends are consoling her. That is such a great scene, like, oh, I was half a virgin when I met him. And there's a great line where she's chewing out Karen because Karen has this insane suggestion where she goes, you want to do something fun? You want to go to Taco Bell? And Regina just flips out on her and goes, I can't go to Taco Bell, Karen. I'm on an all-carb diet. God, you're stupid.
So stupid.
I love that. And then she goes, no one understands me. She cries.
I don't know you guys, but I love suggestion. Karen's amazing. I would love to go to Taco Bell in high school. That would have been the most fun thing to do, honestly.
That's true.
I'm kind of shocked that McDonald's, I guess Taco Bell, there's a surf taco by me, and that's where high school kids go to hang out. Kids,
Oh, okay.
I remember like ever since McDonald's kind of added Wi-Fi and got like and made it more like, hey, you can hang out here. People actually like hang out at these places, and
Oh, it's the
that
big cafes.
That's something that I never did.
They the McDonald's McCafes, right? Those are like maybe like the new
Yeah.
Starbucks or something. People go there and they like just use the Wi-Fi.
But I passed by the Surf Taco, and there were like youths hanging out.
Youths?
Like just hanging. Yeah, they're like the ruffians, as I call them. But they're just hanging out in front. And I guess you can hang out at Taco Bell. But
Well, that's the thing. At high school, there's not much to do. You
Right.
go hang out at like Taco Bell. You go to the mall. Like
Yeah,
it's
the
all-
mall.
I was a mall rat. I was a mall rat.
The mall.
Me too.
I like when they show it earlier on. They go to the mall and all the kids are hanging out there because it's so true. I mean, the kids love just hanging out at the mall because there aren't that many things to do in the suburbs for a teenager. So, absolutely.
I love shopping. So
And then, other cast members you have Lacey Chabert as Gretchen Wieners.
The only choice they wanted. They only wanted her.
She's-
She knocked it out of the park.
She's great, and for the longest time, I went without knowing that Lacey Chabert is also the voice of Eliza Thornberry. They're just two completely different characters. But it kind of made me realize watching this time, it's like, Katie was homeschooled while her parents were like working in Africa. And we were thinking like, Katie, when she starts out, she's like a weird hybrid of Eliza and Debbie Thornberry. She's like the sweet ginger girl, but she also has like a grunge sort of thing going on with her outfits. So it's like, what if you found out, like, what if they had Katie with an older, like, cynical sister, and it turns out that this is just like a spin-off of like Wild Thornberries or something, like, when they come to America.
I love it.
I
I wouldn't
wonder-
be surprised.
I wonder if they had that conversation on set. Like, wait a minute, Lacey Chabert just saying these fun facts.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Hey, this has a lot in common with my other show.
Yeah, because the show, I think the Wild Thornberries might have still been going on at the time, but I think she's classic as this like extremely needy, gossipy girl. She gets a lot of really great lines in there too. The fetch thing, I love the fetch thing because you can every time Gretchen says fetch, you can see Regina getting more and more annoyed with her. Until obviously she finally snaps.
That's just not gonna happen. Okay.
I love
That will
I love
stand
that.
the test of time. That quote, like,
Fetch is not going to happen. In fact, I even relate that whenever I see other trends that like the media, whoever's trying to force onto the public and it's not catching, I think of that. I think of like, guys, like this is like fetch. It's not going to
and
happen.
you usually see it in the thread. You usually see that like this is not good.
People relate that. It's kind of like the thing to describe, an attempt at a trend, but it just falls flat on its face. And then Amanda Seyfried as
Her first role. Her first role.
her breakout role for sure. And she's totally believable as the dumb girl. In fact, every time I see her in something, I kind of always think of her as, I assume her characters are dumb just based on her character in this movie.
She has that face, like that wide-eyed face that that it's totally Karen.
And I definitely knew plastic girls like her in school who were just as dumb.
Name names. We have the platform. Name names.
I won't name names.
But I think playing dumb is harder than people give it credit for.
Well, there's obvious things you could do for a dumb character, but like you have to, ironically, have smart writing to write a dumb character in an interesting way. So they give her dumb things to say that are like funny. Like you have to be smart to think of a clever. You have to be smart to think of an interesting dumb thing. Because you could just like have a character be like, like doy, but they give her funny lines like, my breast can tell when it's raining, like something useless like that.
The thing with her, they're making it very slutty because of the fact she can fit her whole fist in her mouth. Like, come on, and then the whole boob thing.
I forgot that joke, and that joke made like there are some things just like having not rewatched it in a while. There are some jokes that I forgot that just caught me by surprise. Like I could fit my whole fist in my mouth.
I've always been a fan of I'm sick. Like I love the like less than half energy or attempt she gives at pretending she's sick.
Boo, you whore.
Another classic line. I know so many girls who would quote that line like, boo, you
And remember
whore.
the gross thing? She hooked up with her cousin.
Oh, yeah.
That's so stupid.
Well, you have your cousin and then your first cousin and your second cousin, right? That's that how it works?
We don't know the rules, and we won't go in.
That's for another discussion.
Well, divided families. Welcome
Oh
back.
God.
Sit down. Seriously, sit down. Why don't I know you?
I'm new. I just moved here from Africa.
What?
I used to be homeschooled.
Wait, what?
My mom taught me at home.
No, I know what homeschool is. I'm not retarded. So you've actually never been to a real school before? Shut up. Shut up.
I didn't say anything.
Homeschooled. That's really interesting.
Thanks.
You're like really pretty.
Thank you.
So you agree?
What?
You think you're really pretty?
So you have your main plastic girls, but then Lizzie Kaplan, I think, is also perfect as Janice Ian, and I think ever since then she usually plays these very what's the word I'm looking for, like cynical, sort of detached sort of characters who are just have these great like one-liners and a bit of an attitude. She's a great punk sort of character.
I didn't realize that was her until I love Party Down. It's like a 2-season underrated show.
It's a great show.
Funny people. And I always thought that was my introduction to Lizzie Kaplan. Because Lizzie Kaplan can do comedy and then go to drama with Masters of Sex. And it took me years. I'm like, wait a minute, she's Janice Ian in Mean Girls?
Yeah.
Like, you totally see it, but you don't have a concept of I was only 14, 13 going into high school. I had no concept of a celebrity like that except for like Lindsay Lohan.
Exactly. In fact, same thing. I was 13 when this came out, and I didn't really connect the dots for who these actors were later on when I was starting to become aware of who's what celebrities are who. So this was, I didn't really watch Saturday Night Live when I was younger, so this was kind of my introduction to a lot of these actors like Amy Poehler. So then when I get into Parks and Rec, I forget that she's the mom in Mean Girls, and then I go back to Mean Girls, and it's like, oh my God, like that's her. I'm so used to her as Leslie Knope, and then here she is playing this absolutely insane mom character. And then just a nice performance from Anna Gasteyer as the mom,
and Neil
really
Flynn
solid.
as the I think Neil Flynn plays a great dad, and I know people who I don't know anyone who watched The Middle. That seemed that show ran for like 10 years, but he seems like
most people know him from Scrubs, right?
I know him from Scrubs, but like he is like a great father in this. Like he knows like
the parents are really good in this. And
I guess you're grounded.
Yeah. It's like, are they not allowed to go out when they're grounded? They get some nice moments in there too. I think that's what's so great too about the writing is that even a lot of other writers would not really give interesting things for these like tertiary characters to do, and so it's nice that Tina Fey took the time to give the parents a couple of funny moments here and there. Even if they're not as like outrageous as say the Karen character.
Well, we're all talking about our high school experiences, but doing research into this movie, this is based on a book. This is based on I think if you're tackling a subject like this or a nonfiction book, Tina Fey, she read the book and there isn't really a plot. It's just talking about Mean Girls in high school.
Okay.
Tina Fey did the smart thing about putting her own experiences into this.
No,
and
that is
I think,
smart.
it's so, and that adds to the relatability to it. I think it just adds to this is a Tina Fey. I want her to kind of go back into movies now that she went on to 30 Rock and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, but right. I miss her. This was her only, if I'm not mistaken, this is her only feature.
Did she write Baby Mama? Did she write that one?
I think she actually, yeah, you're right. I think she wrote that with Amy.
Yeah,
probably.
Okay, that was more of a partnership writing, and this maybe is her only solo feature script. Yeah, and you know what? Because this, you're right. It's smart of her to take her own high school experiences, because she, as a comedic writer, you can tell she sees everything through a comedic lens, and she sees the comedic possibilities in everything, even maybe her own painful high school experiences, which is so great. You have to
reading
embrace
her
it.
reading her biography, which is I would recommend to everyone, Miss Bossy Pants. Like she had she was Katie, probably even she was like a nerd outcast type. So and like I think some of those teachers are based off of, like they took their names from real people. I think like she used her friend, her college roommate, in one of the scripts, like used her name. But yeah, no, this is like Tina Fey just being very vulnerable and like bearing her soul, her humor, her
That's
and
great.
And Mark Waters was able to, I don't know, it's just a perfect concoction of why it works.
Yeah, it was a great matchup between writer and director. And Tina Fey, even in her performance as Miss Norbury, she's kind of just herself. She's just being like Tina Fey. Maybe like a less quirky version of Liz Lemon, but
that's her.
She's still, it's still very likable. She gets very Tina Fey sort of deliveries in there. Like, oh no, I'm just here with my boyfriend. Like things like that.
Do you want some drugs?
Quintessential Tina Fey there, and I think she's a pretty good actress. Just not just from her comedic delivery, but just I don't know, her whole presence. She just is in it, and I think obviously everyone knows her for her writing and her comedic delivery, but I don't know, she just is just so natural on camera. Maybe because it's kind of just a version of herself. But I just enjoy her just living in the moment in this movie.
She looks like a teacher too. So
Exactly. She does.
She really
I'm
does.
happy, and it feels that everyone on this set not only had a good time, but it looks like they gave a shit about making something good. Because I think movies like this, I remember watching on whatever channel it is now, Freeform or ABC Family. I remember. Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. That movie just looks like by the numbers. Let's get this out. Like,
right.
A lot of those teen movies, especially of the 2000s, can come across as just by the numbers. Like the kids will see this on Friday nights at the mall anyway. Like bare bones. And
just get some attractive actors in there, and that's
get some
enough to fill the
attractive
seats.
actors, and but everyone just looks like they gave a shit on this production, and it looks like they became friends, and
There's real chemistry. You can tell.
There's so much chemistry.
And with this movie, they actually didn't focus on the attractive people as much. They had so many different looking people. I love how they brought in so many different people that are. It's great how they have that.
Yeah, we're like the student body and the teachers and everything. They're not all just like super glamorous people. I mean, this is like a Chicago suburb, and you get like more relatable, normal looking cast members, who play like all these different cliques, and that's one of many touches that make it stand out from your, like you said, your typical cliched high school movie where everyone's attractive, and the unattractive people are just attractive people with glasses, basically.
And they don't have the typical like jocks and cheerleaders. You don't see that as much.
Yeah, there's not much of a focus. Like the Plastics, they date some of the jocks, but you don't really see too much of them. There's what is it? Shane Oman is the only really prominent jock, and he doesn't really have that much screen time anyway. Like Aaron Samuels, I guess, is the jock. He plays soccer, right? But he doesn't really come off as your typical jock. He's just that that cute boy next door,
Good hair
with the good haircut.
Tina Fey wanted him because he looked like Jimmy Fallon.
I don't really see it.
I don't see it
Like,
either.
or he had Jimmy Fallon, like
Way about
I don't know, way about him. I guess. I might be getting the quote wrong, but
I think when he
that's
smiles, I
Yeah,
see it when he smiles.
I kind of see it maybe from like the eyes up. That could be like maybe a distant relative of Jimmy Fallon or something. But Aaron Samuels, or what's the name of the actor? Because I feel bad. I feel like
Jonathan Bennett.
Jonathan Bennett, yeah.
Jonathan Bennett, I feel bad, is maybe one of the actors who didn't really have much of a career after this.
He was on what's that, Cake Wars or something like that?
Big Brother. He was
that
on.
Big Brother?
I don't watch. Okay,
he was on.
I don't
Celebrity Big
watch
Brother.
Celebrity Big Brother. But I do remember he was on that season when like Omarosa and Ross the intern, I think. But I don't. Why do I know this? I don't know. My brain has useless facts. They won't even ask that stuff in Jeopardy. I know that, but I remember going like, "Hey, it's the guy from Mean Girls. That's what he's up to now."
That's all he's really known for, and I think all he really does is maybe some public appearances for Mean Girls. That's his. I mean, he could probably ride that for maybe the rest of his life. I don't know.
Well, the actor who played Damien, he is also as quotable as Regina George.
Oh yeah, like oh my gosh, Danny DeVito, I love your work.
Glenn Coco is such a writing. Having you don't know what lines are going to stick with people.
No,
but just
you
writing
never
the
know.
name Glenn Coco and his whole sequence, like none for you, Gretchen. Like people quote that.
Good for you, Glenn
Like,
Coco. People love Glenn Coco.
People love Glenn Coco, and I don't even know what he looks like.
You don't even see his face.
You see his hair.
Exactly.
Glenn Coco.
But like that actor, granted, I could be totally wrong, but I haven't really seen him in stuff.
The only
since,
thing I've
and
seen
he
him in
killed it.
The only thing I've seen him in since is Looking, the
He was in
HBO show. He was in the second season of that.
Actually, he and Jonathan Bennett were both on Drag Race because Jonathan Bennett's gay. I mean, he played the jock and he ended up being.
Wait,
gay.
Jonathan Bennett's
Right.
gay? He is?
Yes,
Oh, wow.
He is gay, and that's right. They both have been on Drag Race. I believe in a recent season, they were guest judges in a Snatch Game episode. So, they'll do random TV guest spots like that, I guess.
Wow.
That's
Well,
their claim to fame.
that's like I think that just goes to the like Jonathan Bennett, that Damien actor whose name I'm forgetting at the moment, but the legacy of this movie. This movie had memes before memes had even like knew like before they were a thing.
Yeah, exactly. This was like.
But you guys can speak to the legacy a little bit because you guys saw the play.
we saw
Like they
the
made
musical.
a play about this movie, and they're thinking about making a movie about this play, about the play, which I don't. It's
That's too much.
I have thoughts on.
I have thoughts on that too. We saw the musical, and to be honest, we weren't crazy about
It's
it.
not the same. The
It's
only
not.
cool thing is that they modernized it. They bring social media, which is super important now. So it's like they really did that touch that made it more of today, which I don't mind if they make it into a movie.
That was
actually.
I think it was smart to modernize it because, like we've been mentioning, this movie comes before the social media age, right before that, and so maybe it'd be interesting to see a modern update on that, how social media would affect the story and these characters.
Like if Regina was an influencer,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
that makes sense.
you know.
Oh, she would be. Even I
And
bet all three of
people-
them would be.
And people are, the backdrop. They have one of the musical has one of those has the backdrops where they would project the social media reactions to the scenes, and during the Jingle Bell Rock scene in the musical, by then Regina has started to get heavy, and at one point like her like pants rip and there's like a shot of her butt, and that shot of the butt gets like posted all over like Facebook or something. Like that's just one example of how they utilize that, and that's kind of funny. We liked that update, but besides that, it was pretty much like an obligatory just musical version that it seemed like to cater really to fans of the movie and not really to anyone who was maybe new to the story. Like they even have the Glenn Coco line in the musical, and of course when they say that, the audience who's they go wild, they love that. And it's like, okay, like I guess you get in all your famous lines from the movie into the musical, but I just feel like it didn't add anything. There wasn't really anything that made it worth turning into a musical for.
I
the
do
thing is-
imagine. Oh, sorry. Go, Eric.
Oh, sorry. Just the thing is that a lot of high school students now can't really relate to Mean Girls back then as much because social media is so big now in high school.
Right,
And bringing that into modern light really hits home for people in high school right now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know
no.
if high school kids today are watching Mean Girls because, like you said, they can't. It's from a different high school era, and I think it's mostly people who were in high school at the time, or people our age who continue to rewatch it. I don't really know if teenagers, would enjoy this movie as much.
Well, they would, but just to bring in social media really brings it up today.
They'll look at it as a time capsule of 2000, like this, because I know, hey, Ariana Grande must be a big fan because this is her. That's the whole, like, she does a big homage to it in her breakup video, in her.
Thank You Next.
Thank You Next video, and
That's true.
like the whole movie, like, and you got Kris Jenner playing Amy Poehler.
It's Regina. She wants to hang out with me tonight, but she told me not to tell you. Do not hang out with her. Why? Oh, you don't want me to tell you. Oh, you can tell me. Hold on. Oh my god, she's so annoying. Who is? Who's this? Gretchen. Right. Hold on. Oh my god, she's so annoying.
I know, just get rid of her.
Okay, what is it? Regina says everyone hates you because you're such a slut. She said that? You didn't hear it from me.
A little harsh, Gretch.
Whatever, she has a right to know. I can't go out. I'm sick.
Boo, you whore.
Okay, this isn't going to be like, I'm not one-siding or the other it, but I wonder if were some jokes in the play changed, because the humor is very 2004 of its time, and because they do say, like, I imagine some kids today would be like, oh, they said retard, or like
yeah.
like we're so cavalier about the teacher relationship.
Right.
I still think that's funny because of how it's written very well, but I can imagine people looking at it differently. But I
can imagine people like maybe not being a fan of how homophobic some of the characters are, right? That may be, I mean, it's not like the movie is condoning that, but you have like, in the Burn book, like, like Janice Ian, is called a dyke.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Back then, being gay was not acceptable. Like now, the good gay people are actually the cool people at school. They're the popular people. But back then, I was in the closet. I was afraid of coming out because of this.
George W. Bush was like at the like this was his second election. Gay marriage was like the biggest issue.
It was
of
a big
the
debate
time.
still. Yeah, exactly.
I think it's called like the gay. I think the trope is like the gay scares, where like two characters are like, oh, I'm not gay. Like I always think it's of the time. This movie, I'm not taking a side or the other. I imagine Tina Fey rewrote the play to not have retard. Like I imagine it wasn't. Some of the jokes were written differently. Like, because they say like Regina George says retard pretty often. I'm like, wow, I haven't heard someone call another person that word since high school.
I mean, she says like a few times, like, oh, I know what homeschooling is. I'm not retarded, like things like that. And that was like a common thing to say back then. But yeah, definitely not now. You have a much more socially conscious,
Kids still say stupid things like that. Like,
oh yeah, they do. I did not see, for someone, and that's why I'm like, I'm not. Of course, if this movie would be rewritten differently today, but I'm also, this movie is of the time 2004. We take the good with the bad. We take the cringe with the really funny.
I mean, it's mostly good. I don't think there's really anything that's genuinely offensive. I mean, like I said, like some of the characters can be homophobic, but it's not really like the movie is doing any homophobic jokes. Like it's just the characters really. And I think nowadays it's like very socially conscious people don't like the idea of humanizing a homophobic character.
Yeah, no, I just hope that this movie is about 15, 16 years old. I just hope that when it comes around to the 20th anniversary, I don't think we need to have a conversation about this movie. I think this movie is funny.
I hope there's no article. There's going to be like an article probably that's like, oh, like Mean Girls doesn't age well. Mean Girls is offensive in ways you didn't think about. We should not watch this movie anymore.
No, like this, it's amazing that a movie like this, where, Superbad is also really funny, but has not been able to,
that movie
people still say it's fun.
That movie ages worse, I would argue, Superbad, because they constantly are saying fag. Like, they constantly call the Fogel character faggle. It's like that.
That's right.
And that, again, maybe you're just trying to show how high school kids talk, but that is not even in a way, that's not even depicted in a negative way. That's just like the joke. And, that sort of early Seth Rogen sort of humor. You know, I think they got away from that eventually, but
We were
yeah,
okay. I mean, I mean,
It flew
I haven't
by,
watched
you know?
Superbad in a while, but it would make me laugh while also being like, I have perspective, a different perspective than I did when I was in high school. But the difference between Superbad and Mean Girls is in our lexicon.
Yeah.
Like people, like it's in our language, and very few movies are able to do that. And the one thing I was happy was you don't see any of that in the Rotten Tomatoes reviews. Even the people that found it meh or just even didn't like it, they don't go after the humor didn't strike them, but they're not. I don't think we're gonna have to have a conversation about Mean Girls, but can we
No.
just I don't think we need to have a conversation about Mean Girls.
No, I don't think so. If anything, I think the fact that it was a female-led high school movie is what is keeping it fresh too. Because usually, most high school movies, if it does focus on on a female character, it's all about her love interest. And, like obviously Katie's crush on Aaron Samuels is a big plot driver, but that's just one of many plot lines in the movie. And, maybe like some earlier movies, like, She's All That or something. It's all about the guy that she has a crush on. So there's more dynamics there. And there's just, different kinds of female characters that you didn't really see in earlier movies. So if anything,
That being said, I do want to see a She's All That musical. I've been championing that for years. I'm surprised we haven't done it.
You've always had a weak spot for She's All That.
That's a different kind of teen movie that just warms your heart, and that it's not divided. It's both the audiences and critics did not like it. I will talk about it in the next bonus episode.
You'll defend it. All right, that's fair. I mean, to be fair too, like I've enjoyed high school movies that are from a different era before mine. Even when I was in high school, I enjoyed The Breakfast Club. I enjoyed Clueless.
Yeah.
Those are from maybe a time period where I don't really relate to, but I can still get a good sense of what it was like back then. People enjoy, what was it, Dazed and Confused? That was, it was made in the 90s, but takes place in the 70s. And again,
This movie
that's another
gets-
one people enjoy.
A lot of people on Rotten Tomatoes compared it to like this isn't Heathers, and I don't think it's trying but this is in terms of like a high school satire that does it very well. I don't know. Heathers I saw once and I liked it, but whatever.
I like it fine. I think Heathers is fine, and maybe you could say that's the first Mean Girls movie.
Yes.
You have your all-girl clique, and they're very
They're more
mean.
intense, weren't they?
Oh well, it's that movie's way more intense because like characters kill each other. Like,
Yeah.
that's more satirical in like a dark way. Like that movie is dark, and Mean Girls. It kind of takes things a little to the extreme. It's a bit exaggerated, but it's still very relatable.
The thing is, with Mean Girls and the plastics, I could see them in my high school. Actually, there were girls like that in my high school. You had Regina, who is good at being fake. That's where they're plastic. She's so good at being fake. She has that smile where, like, I really hate you or you suck, but I'm smiling, telling you good compliments.
She does those things, where it's like, oh, nice skirt. Where'd you get it? Oh, that's the ugliest effing skirt I've ever seen. Things like that.
And then Gretchen with the big hair full of secrets. Like, there's this gossip girl who just, like, speaks so fast about everything, knows everybody's drama. Drama was so big in high school.
Oh, I one of the things I love about Gretchen is how she brings up how her dad invented toaster strudel. And okay, first of all, that is one of the things I like about Tina Fey. She just picks like the most random thing. So like toaster strudel of all things. And like she even has the line when the principal's talking to them, like, I don't think my father, the inventor of toaster strudel, would be too pleased to hear about this. And I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, God forbid the inventor of toaster strudel should get upset at you. I love that hollow thread. It's so funny. Like Gretchen Wieners.
And Karen, like, there's a bunch of dumb hoes in high school, honestly. Like, I remember these girls just who are really stupid and sleeping around. And
But the thing though,
once again, we need names. Name names.
I will not name names. But the thing about Gretchen Wieners that maybe like I'm not like one. This is a minor issue I have. It seems like all the characters except Gretchen Wieners have development at the end. Like Regina, becomes one of the lacrosse girls and is able to get her aggression out that way. Karen, uses her useless, weather powers for good. But like Gretchen just finds another clique to be like a gossipy girl with, and okay, maybe she becomes bilingual, good for her. But she's still the same needy, gossipy character.
She's that girl who's always a follower. She always wants to follow these groups and follow this figure of this popular girl or something.
It would have been. I mean, I'm just saying, all the other characters seem to like evolve, and it just seemed like at the end, Gretchen is still her same miserable, gossipy self. Because the Kerr and Karen are like followers. In fact, another favorite moment I have when Katie realizes she's the queen bee, and Gretchen and Katie are like right behind her. Gretchen and Karen are right behind her, and they're like, "We're gonna do anything this weekend? What are we doing? What are we doing?" And when Katie is like, "Oh, I'm busy," they're like, "What? What?" And then she's like, "Well, maybe I could be free." They're like, yeah. They become like, that's like the most extreme like sycophant moment for them.
Do you know the plots are a lot like in Daria? They're just like Quinn's group.
Oh, the fashion club.
They're just like them.
Yeah, that's true. Like Regina would be like Sandy, right? And then Karen would be like Tiffany. Oh my god, that works pretty well. And Gretchen is like Stacy.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's the same archetypes. The mean girl, the dumb girl, and the needy girl. It's the exact same archetypes. It's and that's from it's a similar era, but that one's from like Daria was late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah, that works just as well. These archetypes have always been around.
Laura, I don't hate you because you're fat. You're fat because I hate you.
I just wish we could all get along like we used to in middle school. I wish that I could bake a cake made out of rainbows and smiles, and we'd all eat it, be happy.
She doesn't even go here.
Do you even go to this school?
No, I just have a lot of feelings.
I think it's safe to say that we all love this movie. And, no, but if it doesn't, I guess if it doesn't tickle your fancy in terms of humor, I get that. But I think the legacy of this movie has, like our previous movie before Spider-Man, I think the legacy of this movie has just, I think the evidence speaks for itself.
I think it continues to hold up. It'll stand the test of time. I'm just trying to think about anything else that, wouldn't like look as good over time, but I really don't think so. I think it's a pretty universally relatable movie, and it has something to say. I think it's again tackling that popular girl mentality. But I like the idea that Katie gets kind of into deep. You can also kind of look at this movie as kind of like an espionage movie where the person gets in too deep and becomes the person that she was trying to avoid. The music in this movie, the music
it's basically
in this movie,
the Departed. No, it's basically The Departed with
with high
with
school
Mean
girls. Well, because if you think about it, the music in this movie, it's got that great, again, like if you the fact that it's a time capsule movie, that great like early to mid 2000s soundtrack. But they use that same song to depict like the innocent Katie, right? Like there's like kind of that light guitar song where like at the party, Aaron looks at the old pictures of Katie and hear that song again. Yeah, it's like a light song, but it kind of like I like when music kind of is used to characterize someone in a way, and that's like you have the innocent Katie. I also think like speaking of which, though, I think I have another issue with this movie. I don't know if Katie and Aaron should have got together at the end, right? Like because even though Aaron goes off to college, don't they like become an item at the end of the movie?
Yeah, they do. But he goes to college, but it just shows that after someone changes, there's a way for them to like be who they truly were. And he was actually into the original Katie.
Old Katie, yeah.
So they want to show that he was actually attracted to the original Katie.
Yeah, it just goes to show you got to be yourself. And I like how this movie too, it's not one of those movies where a character screws up and immediately redeems themselves. I do like that there's pretty much a longer fourth act than you see in a lot of other movies.
Yeah.
Katie screws up pretty bad, like at the party, the low moment when Janice and Damien confront her. But then it's like 20 whole minutes of, just things getting worse and worse and worse. You know, the big fight scene where everyone is like going crazy, and then Katie's grounded, and people are ostracizing her. That goes on for a really long time in a movie. That compared to other movies you see where it's like, oh, I screwed up, but here's the very next scene, and I'm gonna do something to make people forgive me right away. I like that she has to live in this in these consequences, and really like own up to what she has to do. I've seen some teen movies where it's like there are no consequences for people's actions, and it's kind of infuriating. And Katie really has to pay the piper in the fourth act of this movie, and that's refreshing to see.
I think they want to teach a lesson too.
Tim Meadows, most people don't give a speech, but I do think that's a heartwarming. Everyone gets a piece of the crown, and she's saying like, "You look beautiful in that dress." I don't know. There is a very good message in this movie.
I also get a kick out of Damien like gasps when she breaks the crown, but like that crown probably costs like what, $10 at like a party store or something. It's like not that big a deal.
It's just
the little things in this movie. It's the little things that like the characters do.
I was a little confused by this spring fling king and queen thing, because I think they're saying during the dance scene that like the king and queen are like gonna represent the class and organize events for the next year or something. Like
that doesn't happen.
I was like confused by that. Like the king and queen are like on the student council. I don't think like, for example, Regina George would want to do that kind of thing. Like she wants to be the queen, but she doesn't want to like be involved or anything. Just a little like plot detail that I was like picking up for the first time. It's like one of those movies where you watch so much and each time you kind of notice something different.
Regina George is flawless.
She has 2 Fendi purses and a silver Lexus.
I hear her hair is insured for $10,000.
I hear she does car commercials in Japan.
Her favorite movie is Varsity Blues.
One time she met John Stamos on a plane.
And he told her she was pretty.
One time she punched me in the face. It was awesome.
We can go on and on about our favorite scenes and quotes with this movie, but I think maybe we've reached the point where we can give our own scores, and
did we even? I don't think we said what the scores were.
Yeah, 84% with critics, 66% with audiences. So it's fresh on both sides, but audiences are way closer to mixed. Whereas, and that's reflected because the most negative reviews are middle ground.
Yeah.
But we feel more positively about this movie. So Eric, as our guest this time around, do us the honors. What would be your percentage for this movie?
I mean, honestly, I'd love to give it 100, but I'm gonna give it 97.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's a pretty high score.
Is this one of your favorite movies? This is one of your favorite movies?
It's a movie that is dear to my heart. I don't know. I just felt like this is a movie that got me excited about life in the sec. I don't know why. It's just so entertaining, so quotable. I quote a lot of the movie, and it's just, all the word vomit. It's just great.
Word vomit. That's another great phrase that came out of this, because it's true. People definitely have word vomit, especially when they're drinking, and actual vomit. Okay, so 97. Keith, what score would you give it?
I think this movie is it's not perfect, but it is a perfect storm of everything just working really well together. And honestly, like, seeing your love for it, Eric, that, like I could totally, I think you speak for a lot of people who really do, how they see this movie as their favorite. I'm going to give it a 90. I think what it does, like, it sticks to the landing. And people are still talking about that landing 15 years later. So, yeah, I think it's a 90.
I definitely, this movie gets a lot of points for how much it has remained to resonate over the years. I mean, that's hard to do. How many movies come and go, you never hear from them again? And this movie, people continue to enjoy. We've probably seen it over 20 times, and we enjoy it each time. I agree. I would, for a high school movie, I would, and how well it's written, it definitely stands above the rest. So I would give this, I'll give it a 91, just to trump Keith's 90. I mean, in terms of, is it like a movie that is revolutionizing cinema or anything? Like, no, but for what it's trying to do, for the genre it's in and the goals it set out to do, it like really hit the mark. and did a lot of things that it didn't really have to do. Like little touches that really elevated, and that's all in the writing. So all credit to Tina Fey, and also credit to the cast for just really fleshing out these really realized characters.
Congratulations, everyone. But yeah, you said it best.
97. I mean, it's an egg.
Yeah,
97, 91, 90. We are officially siding with the critics.
Woo!
On Mean Girls. We're not going to be as mean on this movie as some of the audience members were, because they're like Karen. They're so stupid. So, to all the Mean Girls out there in the world, your movie will always stand the test of time. So, that wraps it up for Mean Girls. We'll probably watch it again sometime soon. Thank you, Eric, my love, for coming on the podcast finally.
Of course, happy to be here.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back.
Yeah, definitely. We'll find another great movie that maybe hits home for you to talk about if it's divided. You never know. If Mean Girls is divided, really anything could be divided. But until then, thanks for listening, everyone, and join us again next time for another Divided Film.